is a CONELRAD alert. Civil defense information will be broadcast at 6:40.
West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Y2K, how can we prepare?
Stop a few of their machines and radios. Throw them into darkness for a few hours.
We are fighting for our lives. My family must survive.
Oh, for 5 years. 1,000 gallons of gas, air filtration, water filtration.
Coming at you from the way less than frozen tundra that is Western Tennessee. Good to see you, folks. Creating community, find freedom, promoting preparedness, and share success. I am Toolman Tim. Today is March the 22nd, 2024, and this is episode 436 of Workshop Radio. I hope you all out there are doing great. I thought I better hop on for a very, very impromptu live stream to update you. This is day 4 of what I just did the calculations. It looks like it's going to be a 57-day road trip. So it's exciting. I had to get back on. I just finished up a 3-day, 3,100 kilometer road trip. For all you number geeks out there, I'll break the whole thing down for you later on. 2 of those evenings, I already had pre-scheduled live streams with other folks. So Tuesday evening, the very first night I was on the road, I did an awesome one with Spags and Patrick from Midwest Preparedness, which was great. And last evening, I managed to roll in to the hotel at 6:30 and had a live with Nicole at 7 to help promote Self-Reliance Festival coming up. So I didn't really have a chance to do the live, so I wanted to do one this morning before I head to Kentucky Sustainable Living. So I hope you guys out there are doing great. I had an absolute wonderful sleep last night. It's the first night that I finally feel rested after this road trip. It was great. It was honestly one of the, knock on wood, smoothest road trips. I think I'm starting to get to the point where I kind of have the route almost memorized. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but it's good to catch up with you. We'll fill you in on what's coming up and some of the schedule for next week right away. But I wanted to give you some thoughts. I like to keep some notes as I travel. I know folks out there like these ramblings from the road. I don't get to do them quite as often as I used to. But now that I'm on this epic road trip, we're going to pop in and say hello once in a while. So, well, the first thing I got to admit, guys, is a massive, massive failure as a prepper. So I'm going to be honest about this. But before I left, I packed up all my gear. I had my vehicle completely done up, and I was quite happy with everything I had in it. And the day before we were ready to go, my son went to borrow my son-in-law's truck, and it wouldn't start. So I hauled up my booster pack from the truck, give it a boost, and I'd forgotten that it took quite a bit to get it to crank over. Something was kind of acting up in the truck. So packed up the booster pack, threw it under the seat, never thought anything more of it. I get to my hotel, night 2, Omaha, Nebraska, and there's a lady up there at the desk, and she's quite frazzled. She works there, and she's asking a few people if they have any booster cables. Now, I don't have booster cables for space. I ended up swapping out for a booster pack, which I'm more than happy with because the booster pack does multiple functions. The main ones are it acts as a power bank, and it also acts as a booster pack, which is great. No problem. So I hear her plight, and in my head, I'm like, oh, you're tired, Tim. Don't go help her. But I was like, no. Let's. It's going to take, 3 minutes? Go do it. So I did. And I said, hey, no problem. I got a booster pack. Let's pop over. We'll get you started. You'll be all set. Well, I went over. I hooked it up. The light comes on. It has 4 lights. It's down to 2 with the second light blinking. And I'm like, oh, no. I remember what I did. And we go to turn it over, and nothing. So my heart was in the right place. The old, what is it? The body is willing. Anyway, I didn't want to help her. To be absolutely honest, it was just one of those days where your brain's like, don't do it. And I did anyway. And because of that, who knows why, but my damn ass forgot to charge up my booster pack. Couldn't get it started. So she ended up having to get booster cables after all. So my heart was in the right place. Just couldn't happen. Hey, local prepper. Yep. I've got, I did see your email too. And I have a bunch of emails that I haven't even had time to respond to on the road. After this live stream, I'm going to follow up with them. But yes, local prepper, I do want you on the show to come on and chat about your event. So just have to get my ass and send all these emails out. The last 3 days have been a whirlwind, which whatever, no excuse. Just sometimes I'm slightly incommunicado when I'm doing these road trips. So anyway, so huge failure as a prepper, folks. One of those things to remember. It's great to have a booster pack, but remember to take a minute and check to see if it's, charged up before you get started. So I tucked my tail between my legs. I brought it up to my hotel room, and she has got a full 4-bar charge now. So for what it's worth, I'm ready for the next poor lady who is not just lady, could be anybody who's stranded and is like, hey, Tim, wait, they're not going to know my name, but could I get a boost? Sure, you can. So there you go. It is what it is. My own ass for forgetting, and it is. Yep. So anyway, like I said, it's been a great trip so far. Something I have noticed, and this by far, like I told you, 3,100 kilometers is around 2,000 miles. In a really strong crosswind, when trucks are going, the antenna on the truck is doing some awful vibrating. And that wouldn't be so bad, but the plastic trim down around it is really beating up against the vehicle. So I'm going to end up swapping that out for one of them little short, kind of non-flexible antennas. I'd still like to be able to get AM and FM radio. I really would, but not at the expense of wrecking the front end of the vehicle or pulling it out of the trim up there. So definitely something you don't notice until you're doing 80 mile an hour on the highway and you got some crosswind. Speaking of which, that's how I lost my solar panel last time. However, the Monday before I left, that evening I get home and my new solar panel's here. I decided to upgrade from 50 to 100. I have not picked up all the supplies to mount it yet, but it will be going on the back of my truck box cover. I did pick up a rivet set at Harbor Freight in Minot, North Dakota. So there's that, but I'm not just going to rivet it this time. Last time, my brother-in-law and I both thought, okay, mechanical attachment should be enough. Well, as you know, going across the prairies, I believe it was South Dakota, I look back and there goes a kite blowing off the back of my truck. So rivets alone were not enough. So I'm going to use rivets, and I'm going to use double-sided 3M. There's a certain type of butyl tape that I've been researching. Looks like it should do the trick. All right. So speaking of brother-in-law, he was awesome. Got me an incredible Christmas present, which was a dash cam. Haven't had need to use it yet, but I've been friggin' with it. And it's just one of those Amazon imported ones. There's a whole bunch of them out there. And I love the quality of the video. It's better than most people say, but the interface is kind of ass. So I have been friggin' with that. I will get you guys a link when I get kind of settled down here and show you which one it is. But it was around $100 on Amazon. The worst part is you really don't know when it's recording and when it isn't. It's supposed to automatically start recording when you plug it into your dash and then let in drive. So, okay, plug it into your dash, route the wires up through the trim, you're all set. Every time you turn on your ignition, it's supposed to auto record. The problem is it doesn't always record. So if I forget to reach over and turn the on button on, well, then I don't get 8 hours of cool footage of me driving on the prairies. So anyway, I'm going to see if I can figure it out some more. When I get a couple of days next week, I'm going to download some of the footage, see if I can make it work. I love having a dash cam. It did come with a reverse cam as well. I didn't bother routing that all the way through yet, but wouldn't have missed anything at all. Just a very uneventful trip so far. Preps, sunglasses. I know this one is the bane of my existence. 2 is 1, 1 is none, 3 is a guarantee with me. And when I'm driving, I need sunglasses. It's one of the best ways to keep you from getting absolutely fatigued on the road, because when you're staring, and for some reason, I just have the absolute worst. I cannot stand scratched up sunglasses. If I'm looking through sunglasses that have like floaties on them or scratches on them, it almost makes me, I can't concentrate. So I would rather not wear sunglasses than I would. And Becky was nice enough to get me 3 or 4 pairs of these big kahuna glasses, which are made to fit my melon of a head. Except when I unpacked the truck and packed everything back up, I was sure I put 2 pair in my dash, and I did not. So they're still sitting in my garage. The only pair I had was the scratched up pair that was still in the truck. And remember, just before I did this road trip, I ended up switching vehicles, and that's where part of this problem came into. So I was like, no worries. I'll get myself a nice new pair of sunglasses. Picked them up at my favorite gas station / truck stop, Loves. They have a great app too, which I'll talk about at some point. Picked them up, wore them for one day, left them in the hotel. I do not know what was wrong with me this trip so far, but yeah, so keep your sunglasses in your truck. And I should have picked up a couple pair. The problem is when you're picking them up at gas stations, truck stops, you end up paying way more money for them than you should. So remember that. I miss my LED headlights. Again, switched to the new truck. Now my brother-in-law he's a mechanic. He put in top-notch LED headlights and a light bar on my last truck, which is great. Except we only got this truck, and it was 8 days before I headed out on this road trip. So I'm stuck with the factory headlights, which look like, you remember those long Energizer flashlights that kids used to play with? And they, you'd run them till the battery was dead, and then you'd wait a minute and you turn them back on, and they just come on to like this lukewarm orange color. Well, that's all I can say about my headlights. Dodge do better. The factory headlights on those Rams are almost unusable, at least in my opinion. Byron Roberts, good to see you. I'm actually going to be in your state in a couple of hours. Noon here. I got a late checkout at the hotel so I could get some paperwork and some computer work done. And then I'm going to hit the road and head to Bowling Green. What else? Okay, so something really huge positive on this truck, and I hate to do this to you, but I'm going to give it to you in Canuck units here. But the new fuel tank is in the neighborhood of 110 to 120 liters. I managed to get 109 liters in there. So that would be 25, 26, 27 gallons. That is a huge, huge difference from the 78 liter tank that I had on the last truck. For long trips, I love being able to pack as much fuel into it as I can. I mean, I always say half a tank is an empty tank, and I never let it go below half for the most part. However, I decided first day of the trip that I was going to see what kind of range I could get out of that tank. And I managed to drive a solid 8 hours on a single tank of fuel, which for a Ram 1500, I was fairly impressed. It said I still had about another half an hour of range. I had it lined up really good, and I had an extra jerry can in the box of the truck just in case something happened. But one thing I love is it's basically eliminating one stop during these 10-hour days. So it actually seemed to speed up my time just a little bit. And I'm just not always looking at the gas tank thinking, okay, gotta stop. So there is what it is. I found a great bypass in Kansas City. So for those, I've got this route mapped out now. And, I go go down through Estevan, Saskatchewan. So I start in Provost, where I live, and I go to Minot, South Dakota, the very first day. And then from Minot, I go to Omaha, Nebraska, and then from Omaha to Camden, basically where our land is. So it's 10 hours, 10 and a half hours. It's a really good way to do it. So first 2 days, you could drive them with your eyes closed. You're driving on the Canadian prairies. You're driving through the Dakotas. You're driving through right down to Omaha. I mean, the roads are flat. They're basically 80 mile an hour most of the way, and they're great. I love it. But the third day, you end up getting quite a bit of, metropolitan traffic. So I've been looking for kind of routes to make that route a little bit more mindless. And the two main cities that I have to drive through that get kind of hairy are Kansas City, and you kind of bypass St. Louis. So St. Louis isn't horrible. You get into the outskirts, but Kansas City is horrible. It's not a bad city, but to hit one interstate to the next is like a big S-turn, and you're all over the place, right? And you got to fight with city traffic, and you go right through the middle of the city. So I found Interstate 435, which is the bypass route. So, most major cities have kind of a rotary or a circle or whatever you want to call it that runs around the entire kind of circumference of the city. 435 took me all the way around the outside of Kansas City. It actually saved me 2 minutes, and there was almost no traffic. It was very similar to anybody who has taken the outside truck route around Nashville. Same thing. So that completely eliminated the stress of driving through Kansas City. So now all I have really left is St. Louis, and the road I already take kind of takes you through the outskirts of it. I wouldn't mind going a little further outside, but if that's all I have to deal with, it's not bad. I like having a route in place that's as safe and as traffic free as you can get on the interstates and just enjoy it. Garden Girl says, do you take a can of gas in the back of the truck? That is actually something new this time. And the answer is yes, of course. I had been wanting to. My last trip back, I picked up, you can't really find them in Canada, but they're basically a knockoff of the metal NATO gas cans. They're red, and Harbor Freight sells them. Now, the next thing I'm looking for is a nice bracket or holding thing that I can mount to the inside of my box of the truck, because right now I have it ratchet strapped down and it's pretty good. It's not vibrating a lot, but that's what I wanted. So I put some really good PRI-G fuel stabilizer in it. So it'll be good for a solid year, but it's in there just in case. I really, really do try to not go below half a tank of fuel, and it's much easier to do that now with the larger fuel tank, but I really want to have that, and it's hidden up in under the tonneau cover, so that unless I clean out my entire box or I leave the truck open with the tonneau cover folded up, folks aren't going to notice it. But yeah, it was maybe $40 for one of those really heavy duty gas cans from Harbor Freight. Definitely worth looking into if you're up for it. And yeah, like I said, St. Louis, if I can find myself a bypass route even a little bit further, it would be great. And I spent a little bit of time. I haven't done any research yet, but I sent some messages in Telegram last night talking to Brian Young. And again, this is the geek in me. But the last 2 hours and 45 minutes of my trip is like back roads through believe it or not, through Illinois, which is crazy how far Illinois stretches down, but through Illinois, Kentucky, and Tennessee. I would love, even if it took a little extra time, I would love to be able to find a route that takes a divided controlled access highway or an interstate down around there. So I'm going to do some more research, mainly because I would love to be able to have it memorized. And at this point, those last 2.5 hours are, 3 miles turn, 6 miles turn, 8 miles turn. And it basically 2 hours and 45 minutes is what it is on the map. And that is a lot of turns to get committed to memory. Not saying that I can't do it, but I would sure love a more straight route, just so that if Becky ever has to travel it as well, something I can say, okay, interstate here to interstate here to interstate here. Now, Camden is, 20 minutes off the interstate roughly, so you're never going to be perfect, but I would sure love to bring it in on one of the interstates a little bit closer. So I'm going to do some planning, some, checking it out there, but Brian Young was a huge help with that the other day. Another thing, if any of you guys have ever gone in that route down through Tennessee, the bottom little bit of Illinois, there is a town there called Cairo, spelled just like the Egyptian city. It is, I don't know how else to put it, but it is one of the most amazing cities or towns. And I don't mean in a good way, but it looks maybe worse than Detroit. So I'm just going to be honest. I have always been absolutely infatuated with kind of crumbling infrastructure. It's just always been my thing. I love going and taking pictures of old dilapidated buildings, signage that is still standing. The buildings are long gone, sun faded, all of that. And I have never driven through a town that looks like Cairo. And if anybody's ever gone through there, I wouldn't recommend just kind of wandering around, because it looks like a really, really rough city or town. But it would be an absolute, and maybe I should reach out to Worm, because it would be an absolutely incredible place to film like a post-apocalyptic short film or something. It looks like some of the stuff that you would see in The Walking Dead. It is just, it's sad to know that this was just such a flourishing town at one time. It looks like it was an industry or it had factories there. But when you see the fire hall is completely shut down and buildings on Main Street aren't just shut down, but entire roofs have collapsed and bricks are out onto the sidewalk, it is just, it's sad, but it has its own intrinsic beauty, which is kind of weird and hard to explain. And I don't want it to come across as like, speaking from privilege, or I don't even know how to explain it. It just, the first time I went through that little town, it took my breath away. And I really, really would love to go around and shoot some footage there just so that folks could see it, because it blows me away every single time I go through. And yeah, anyway, like I said, I don't think I would go through that area without, a friend strapped on your side, if you know what I mean. But it would sure be neat to explore. Yeah, so there's that. Okay, so where am I heading? What am I up to? Because this has been an absolute great road trip already. Hey, Red Flyer Media. Oh, speaking of Red Flyer Media, love her. And so Local Prepper, you're not the only one whose emails I haven't responded to yet. I've got an awesome email that I'm just waiting to check out from Red Flyer Media. I ended up getting off the SRF live stream last night, grabbed a quick bite to eat, and went straight to bed. Oh, man, yeah, it was a good road trip. So, all right, where am I heading from here? Kentucky Sustainable Living. I'm heading there this afternoon. I was going to camp. I didn't have all the gear that I'd hoped, and I didn't bring everything. There's a bunch of stuff in the storage unit, but I ended up booking a hotel there just about 7 miles away from the location. Just needed a little bit more time to do some computer work and that sort of thing. And it sure is nice to have a nice hot shower in between events. So I got 3 nights booked there. And yeah, looking forward to it. I cannot wait to hang out with Jason. So Jason's going to be there. I know Nicole's going to be there. Chuck Peoples is going to be there. Angry American's going to be there. Hello, L2 Survive. Speaking of incredible people that I've met at live events, another great one. All kinds of good. Everybody in here. It's just awesome. I see all these folks in here, and man, I don't know, at least half of you, we've had actual in-person conversations. And speaking of which, I did just get my super secret handshake patch for this year. I got 150 of them. I think I only had 100 last year. And they are going to be, and if I had 150, I apologize. My brain doesn't always remember. But I got 150 special 2024 in-person handshake patches to give out to anybody I have a meaningful interaction with over the next 8 weeks at these different events, because as it stands, this is my only road trip this year. So if I get a chance to meet up with you in person, it should be on this road trip, and I'm pretty excited. I've got to also have a few folks in line that I want to get interviews with for the Patreon and some different things. So I'm stoked. I can't wait for you guys to see. Again, they're pretty cool patches. I have not made these ones before. They're similar to last year's, but completely different, if you like that. Like Yogi Bear, the same but different, yo. All right. I got to go over to my storage unit after we finish up here. I'm actually going to put the finishing touches on my Kentucky Sustainable Living presentation. If you've heard me speak on the poverty mindset before, that's what I'm speaking on. It's one of those topics that is top of mind to me, something that I'm absolutely passionate about, and I cannot wait to get up and share again. Life has changed a little bit since the last time I did the presentation, so every time I do it, there's different things in there that that we get to share from our own personal experience. So there's that. Sunday night, if all goes well, what I'm shooting to do is a post KSL show Sunday evening, which should be great. I'm looking forward to that from my hotel room, in theory. And then Monday night, I'm going to do This Week in Prepping. So I've committed to myself that I'm going to do an episode of This Week in Prepping each week, just like you guys count on, so that you'll have it in your prepper or in your audio feed if you're looking for it. So you will get that, and then there'll be some random, as you guys know, I've never been one for, maybe I should get into this. I don't know. It's up to you guys if you want it or not, but I've never been one to go back and play rewind episodes. You know, we're at, what are we at? Episode 436. So there's lots of good content. Maybe I should start doing some rewinds just so there's something in the feed for folks. But one thing I love are these impromptu rambling from the roads episodes. I love getting to get on and share with you. And I know the schedule gets a little bit wonky, and I hope folks are okay with that. But if folks out there, if you'd like to get some rewind episodes, let me know. I can do it. It's a matter of 10 minutes of work before I leave. I used to sit down and I would bust through a bunch of pre-recorded stuff beforehand. And two things. Number one, it would make the week leading up to the trip incredibly stressful. But to be honest, I found the quality suffered a little bit. So I enjoy doing these live from the road episodes a bit more. This is what I kind of enjoy sitting around and sharing with you guys. So it's what I'm going to keep doing. And, every 2 or 3 days, kind of some exciting stuff. So I've got, Kentucky Sustainable Living ends up Sunday night. I'll be leaving Kentucky Monday morning. My plan is to come back here to the Camden area, go down and pick up a bunch of lumber from my favorite building supply store, and I'm going to haul it out to Delinquents Gully. That'll be the extent this week of the work I get done there. But I have a day, so I'm going to do it. Then Tuesday, I'm going to get caught up on some, mainly just content for you guys, which is going to be great. I love having the freedom to do it. But here's the thing. This Wednesday, I am picking up Becky, Mrs. Toolman, and Alice and Charlotte, the twins. I'm stoked. I can't wait. I mean, Becky's been to Tennessee many times with me, but Alice and Charlotte have never. They've heard all about it. So they're coming down, and we're going to spend 10 days exploring Tennessee, showing them the property, doing a bunch of stuff. And they're going to be coming to Self-Reliance Festival with me. They've always heard, again, about my cool imaginary internet friends, and they're like, we really want to see you speak, Dad. And so they're coming down. They're bringing a whole bunch of Canadian chocolate bars and candy to sell at the booth. I mean, who can resist buying Canadian chocolate bars from 13-year-old twin? Oh, yeah, 13. Yeah, they'll be 14 in May. 13-year-old Cook twins. So they're going to be there and help them sell out, guys, because I'm pretty excited. So, yeah, they're going to be down. And then after they fly out, I have 13 days to work on my property at Delinquents Gully. So we'll be filming a whole bunch of stuff for Delinquents Gully Chronicles. But more than that, I really have some plans in my head. Number one is, and this is, of course, hopefully it all works out, but get a composting toilet built up the hill at the main property. So there's that, number one. And then number two, start expanding the main cabin. So I'm going to build a second cabin attached to the first cabin. So it'll be basically an identical mirror left to right. So that'll double the floor space. Originally, I'd hoped to go 4 times. So 1 beside, 2 back. If we get that far, great. If I don't, well, it's a modular design. If I only get 3 of them done for this year, I'm okay with that too. So we'll see what we end up with. Eventually, I'm going to put in some rain catchment and all that, but that's for down the road. I really need some of this infrastructure built. Brian, I need to shout out to my good buddy, Brian and Corey, both actually, Alexovich, from the Lots Project, have been out there and have been doing some crazy path cutting. So they've been right from the main road. I believe we've got 2 or 3 routes that go right from the road all the way to the back end of the property. So now if you want to go down and walk around and, get some exercise and kind of circumnavigate the entire property, it's doable. It's going to be some nice roads or paths for when we have it set up as a hip camp for people to explore without taking them up through the main property. So I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be a place for me to exercise while I'm there. And it's just going to be great all around. I'm surprised. So you got to understand when you leave Alberta and it was minus 12 that morning, and then the very first night you get to Minot, North Dakota, and you leave about that much Diet Pepsi in a bottle in your truck, and the next morning it's frozen solid. In your mind, the weather's like that everywhere. So then the second day you start heading south, and somewhere near the southern end of South Dakota, I end up seeing the last patch of snow. And you don't know when it's the last patch of snow. Just like they say, you don't know the last time you're going to play with your elementary school friends. You don't know when it is, but you can remember it afterwards. Perhaps, maybe you can, maybe you can't. Same with the snow. You're driving along and you're like, oh, look, there's a little patch of snow. And I haven't seen snow in like an hour. And it's in like a little shaded area with some trees, and then it's gone. Well, eventually you don't see it, and that's fine. And then you drive a few more hours and a few more hours, and you end up in Omaha, and you might see a couple little patches of maybe a little bit of green weeds coming up here and there. Nothing to mow yet or anything. And then you start driving further south, and the smile on your face starts getting a little bigger and a little bigger. And then all of a sudden, you start seeing green grass. And then you start seeing blossoms and flowers. And then you roll your window down, and what's that smell? Oh my God, somebody is mowing a lawn. And that's when you know you get there. I'm sitting here. I can hear the birds chirping like little bastards just outside of my hotel room. And it makes me smile. It's warm. I got here. It was 18 degrees Celsius last night, which I can't do the math. What's that, in the 50s? It was so gorgeous, guys. I'm so excited to be back down in the land of it. You got to understand, it's so hard when you have lived, even though we had a pretty, nice winter this year, it's hard to believe that you can just hop in your vehicle, drive for 2.5 days, and all of a sudden show up to somewhere where it's like so much warmer. So I'm enjoying that. Now, if I happen to be skipping out a little bit, I just got a notification that the Wi-Fi is getting a little bit weak here in the hotel. If everybody can still hear me, give me a thumbs up, but we're getting toward the tail end of everything anyway. Garden Girl says, did you ever make it down to Texas? I have not yet. Texas has not been on my, haven't made it up there on my bucket list yet. I was originally 2 years ago supposed to go down to Jack's Survival Podcast fall workshop, and I still really would love to go. I felt bad that I had to let Jack down, but we ended up that year getting one of the, anyway, it basically doubled or almost tripled the amount of money I could bring in through snow, and I had to be there for that, and I really, really felt bad about that. So I didn't make it, but I will make it. We will get to Texas at some point. I've been collecting these stickers for each state. I managed to get 3. I didn't get any for Nebraska. Haven't got Kentucky yet, but I will. And putting them on the top of my laptop. I'm going to get some for the events I go to, just so every time I open my laptop, it gives me a smile and reminds me of why I do these crazy road trips. Because I'm going to tell you, they tire me out. I miss my family. I miss my dogs, but I love doing them. I love getting down here and meeting with folks and just spending time meeting up and hanging out. Hey, John Palmer, great to see you. Love seeing you in here. And I know this was an odd time for a live stream, but you know. So for all you numbers geeks out there, and because I'm a numbers geek, if Fred's listening, I bet he'll appreciate this because I know he's a bit of a numbers geek like me as well. So here's the breakdown of my 3-day trip. So like I said, basically 30-ish hours of driving altogether. So every time I've been using the OnDash computer to kind of keep track of things. But from my home dooryard to pulling into the hotel I stay at in Camden all the time. So this is kind of our, I'm still about a half an hour, 40 minutes from my from the property we own. But this is what I kind of call home when we're down here is Camden. It's just easier. Everybody knows where it is. It's where John Willis is. It's where where Tactical Response is. And it seems to be the area that we like to stay. It has a fair bit of stuff. So 1,952 miles over 3 days. The new Ram wasn't bad on fuel. It was 20.63 miles per gallon. So I'm going to give them in both. Hang on here. Let me bring this back up. Just got a text message from my dad saying that my uncle finally has his bypass surgery. I want to show you Uncle Paul. If you happen to be listening, I love you to death. That man has gone through some crazy stuff right now. And he ended up, he was scheduled for a bypass that he wasn't able to have for 20 years. He's been suffering for so many years. He was about to go have it. He was having incredible pain. They thought his heart was giving up on him. They take him into the hospital, and he had a seriously inflamed gallbladder. Now, here's the crazy thing. My mom was suffering with stomach problems for like 4 months. She goes into the hospital the same night my Uncle Paul goes in. They both get rushed to the same hospital to be tested, and both have a seriously inflamed gallbladder on the same night. Mom was lucky enough to be able to have it removed. Uncle Paul can't until after. So I just got a text from Dad. I'll respond to him afterwards. But great to hear, Uncle Paul. I'm excited for you because he's been, honestly, he was like one of my very first fans. He was always messaging me on every one of my early videos, always giving me thumbs up and telling me way to go. And I love the dude. He's my dad's younger brother, and he's been an entrepreneur. He's been a handyman on top of working his ass off his entire life. So he's a good dude. All right. So here we go. So let's go back the trip. 3,140 kilometers. In Freedom units, 1,952 miles. I got 11.4 liters per 100 kilometers, which is 20.63 miles per gallon. I averaged 106 kilometers an hour, which is 66 miles per hour. And if you know some of the roads I took, you'll know that's a pretty damn good speed. And 29 hours, 37 minutes of driving. So that's not that bad. So just ever so slightly less than 10 hours of driving per day. And I've got it down, like I said, to a really good route at this point. There's some more straightforward routes, but I've been working really hard at memorizing the route so that if I ever lose GPS or heaven help, oh my God, if I ever had to walk home or something, anyway, that's a whole other story. But I do have, you guys, I'm going to do a get home bag thing at some point because I've got this really nice get home bag that I've put together now. And I'm going to do some hiking with it at the property just to kind of get comfortable with it. And yeah, I really want to know where the route goes. And so I was able to go from home to Kansas City without needing GPS maps or anything. So that was basically 2.5 days of a 3-day drive that I now have memorized. And that's a long drive to remember where things go. I should be able to get myself, I believe, at this point to Cape Girardeau. There we are. I guess I should on the internet's getting a little bit wonky. Anyway, should be able to get to within completely memorized off the net. So yeah, this has been this is 4th or 5th. Yeah, at some point I would love to have the entire memory. And because just one of those, I guess, ever since my very trip coming north and I lost my GPS and on my phone, give me a real scare that, Tim, you need to be prepared. So yeah, I hope you folks are doing great out there. I love my fellow delinquents. I can't wait to, I just wanted to get on and say hello this morning because there's just so much on the go. And when you're traveling, all you want to do is drive, have a meal, and sleep. I actually did pretty good on the road for snacks. I've decided what I'm going to do, and it's not perfect by any means, but no fast food the whole way down. I'm just going to get something when I arrive at the hotel. So snack-wise, it's been pepperoni sticks, boiled eggs, peanuts, or cashews, that kind of stuff. And I've stuck to that 100%. And then when I get to the hotel, it's, like chicken strips, chicken fingers, chicken wings, that kind of stuff. I did have a few fries the other night, but I just find, especially when you're traveling, I mean, carbs are ass anyway. So whatever. Just want to let you know, I'm going to try to kind of stick to that the best I can as we go along. Just you travel better, you feel better, you have more energy, all of the above, right? So yeah. So from here, Kentucky Sustainable Living, heading out there in a little bit, going to get a little more time done. I've got an in-person interview that's going to be uploaded to Patreon either tonight or early next week, depending on how my time goes. I've got an hour and 40 minutes till I have to check out here. And then I'll be back Sunday evening, I hope. Definitely Monday, and then I'm going to pick up my ladies right away. So anyway, guys, I appreciate you stopping in. We ended up 14 delinquents in here this morning, which is great considering I didn't tell anybody I was going to do it. I didn't post it anywhere. I didn't even schedule it. We just went live. So it's great to see you. So with that, folks, as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week.